Travis Scott starts performing, and Kanye just comes like right next to us, and he's just right there, and I'm just sitting here like, yo, I tap Ish, I'm like, Kanye. And then like we're so starstruck that we like naturally start following him around. Yo, what's up, Ordinary Freaks? Here we are with a new episode. We got B, Eddie, and today we have the pleasure having audio engineer, manager, entrepreneur, and a self-proclaimed dot connector, Enrique MAG Rodriguez. Welcome. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate
Welcome,
it.
man.
Of course, man. We've been excited to have you. We've been, looking forward to this interview, having you on the podcast. And just to get started, we want to get right into it. Man, you're 20-something years old, and, to my knowledge, you've done a variety of things that, kids, anyone would really dream of doing, the places you've been, the things you've done. Did you always know that one day you would, become this person? How did you become MAG? Yeah and no, I guess is kind of like the answer. So, growing up, I knew I was like different than people, just because like I had to fake being a kid a lot. Okay. Just like growing up, just like I remember being in school and just kind of like, all right, they're making dumb jokes. Let me just laugh. And like it wasn't like I knew how to like adapt, but like I knew how to play my role as like growing up as a kid. But that all kind of changed when I turned like 13. Like when I turned 13, I was like, I knew what I wanted to do. So like that's kind of when I fell in love with music, and it was more of a, this is what I want to do. And I went from like being top of my class to just like eliminating everything in my life to just doing music and soccer, which was weird because like I knew I was going to either make it in soccer or I was going to make it in music. And it was just like, let's see which one works. Right. So like I just dedicated all my time into soccer because I was into being fit and just getting in shape. But yeah. So yeah, I kind of knew what I wanted to be. Gotcha. Very early on. I just didn't know if it was real because when you're young, nothing feels real. It's more like you're just living day by day, and then things just kind of happen over time.
Right. It's something that you like. It's got, in a sense, a hobby. So
yeah. Definitely. It was definitely a hobby turned into a career after a series of events type of thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I want to get right into it and maybe talk about those early years a little more in depth, and specifically about your early hustles, like Prod, the clothing line, where music stemmed from, anything as far as that. So can you give us a little more?
So I started making music through super random. One of my sister's early boyfriends was obsessed with my sister. And he was like, it was to the point like, you're obsessed in a relationship where you want to write them songs and you don't even make music. It was that type of thing. So this guy, he would try to hang out with me just because like he was a family friend. And then they kind of like became boyfriend, girlfriend. This is when I was like 12, 13. And one day it was just me and him hanging out for whatever reason. And he was like, it's like, yo, man, I wrote this song for your sister and I really want to sing it. And I was just like, okay, like that's cool. Like, let's record it. And I had an MP3 player that, one of those like little, like I think it was like 2 gigabytes, but it lets you record into it. Gotcha. So I ended up being like, yo, let's record the song and like you can sing it to her, play it for her when she comes home from work. She was working at, I think, McDonald's or something at the time. And we ended up recording over T-Pain's "I'm Sprung" beat. Oh, the instrumental. Yeah. Classic. It was definitely a classic. So he wrote the song, sang it, and it was awful. It was honestly awful. But throughout the process, like I have a natural like obsessive like character where like if I like something, I just like focus on it for like whatever. And I had it since I was young. So I ended up, I was like, yo, this is kind of cool. And it kind of sounds cool. So then I recorded my own version of a song to that sprung beat, and that kind of like developed into me learning how to record music, and I started YouTubing stuff and Googling stuff, and that's kind of how it like, that's how I started like originally making music or recording music. And then through my sister too, when she got into high school, one of her close friends in high school was this guy named Ugo, who ended up becoming a really close friend of mine. And him and his brother were in a reggaeton group. They were called Ghetto Fantasy. And they were good. Like they were actually like really good. Like they had like a movement going, but then like, you know, stuff happens, life happens. Yeah, they were a little older, so then they just kind of like split apart. But when she introduced me to them, they kind of mentored me, and like he gave me my first like microphone and his mixer and his speakers and everything he was pretty much doing, and taught me how to like, he kind of gave me the initial push to just like, yeah, man, you should do it. Like I sucked at making music. So I was only recording myself just because like I wanted to learn how to do it, not because I wanted to be an artist. And yeah, like my freshman year of high school, I thought I was a rapper. And I performed at school, and like people from high school still kind of give me shit about it. Like, you know, it wasn't bad. My music was not bad. I think this is a disclaimer. It wasn't bad. It was just like I was trying too hard to do what I thought I had to do. Right. But it just wasn't me. You know, I'm naturally like, I'm not shy, but like I don't like being in front of people, and like, but throughout that, it took that process for me to understand that, oh, okay, you know what? I don't want to be the face, but I like the process. Right. So then that converted into me. Well, I went to school with Wave Chappelle. We went 8th grade through all of high school, and then Buddha, and who's Ish's brother. So all of us in high school, we created a hip hop group. It was first called Colors, and then No Name. And then, yeah, that just became a series of events in high school, and then one way or another, like it became me managing Ish after high school, and then yeah, the rest was kind of history. It just kind of happened one step at a time.
Yeah, so you were, in a sense, kind of always, you know, going that extra step. So in order for you to learn how to produce, you, even whether you liked it or not, you rapped. Yeah. And this was at a very young age. Yeah. You talked about No Name, and then I believe Ill Collective was kind of...
Ill Collective too, yeah. That was after high school. Me, Buddha, and Ish were a group called Ill Collective, but that was like 2-3 months. Like, gotcha. We just tried to do it to like relive what we were doing in high school. But then Buddha went to college, like... It was like we started in August and he left to college in September. And yeah, and then it was just kind of like, I stopped making music actually. Because after college, I got a really good job working for a banking company. And I was making good money. So like, it was just, and I had just sold like a prior business that I had started when I was in high school. Okay. So like, I just kind of had time to kind of do whatever I wanted to. But that all transpired into one day Ish hitting me up and was like, yo, man, I want to try making music by myself. And it went into like, all right, whatever. I thought I was done, but like clearly, you know, I've always been a fan of just trusting life to kind of like guide me naturally. Like I feel like as soon as you start saying no to things, you start limiting yourself. Yeah. So I was just like, cool. I was always very down to do anything as long as it didn't put my life in danger. I was just like, all right, yeah, cool.
Let's try it, right? How important was it? I mean, obviously you're a self-starter and you like going through things, and like you said, if something comes at you, you know, if it's not life-threatening, you'll go for it. But throughout high school, yourself and kind of your group, you guys had a mentor to, you know, push you or kind of gave you the door for you guys to, you know, pursue what you wanted. You know, how important do you think it is to, you know, have those people in your life, and how important was that person specifically?
I mean, I think we all have someone who pushes us. It's just whether or not you're willing to listen. That's fair. So in high school, for me, it was my music teacher, who, I mean, how it worked out, and it was crazy. I just had a studio session with him, like, I think like a week ago or like a week and a half ago. And I asked him, I'm like, yo, why did you help us out? Because shout out G Flat. So he basically, I don't know how it worked out, but he wanted a classroom when we were in high school, right? He didn't have a classroom. He was the band teacher, music teacher. and he was fighting to get a classroom.
Okay.
And from my understanding, they told him that if he got the money to build the room, the school would give him a room. So he went and like applied for like some form of grant, and he ended up getting the grant, and they gave him money for his classroom.
Gotcha.
And then he presented it to the board, and they were like, yeah, we want to use that room for storage, but you can buy more. Yeah. So he got the money. He did everything they wanted to, but they still said no to him. And he didn't want to buy more instruments because we had enough instruments. So he was like, I remember him having a conversation with me because I would bring my equipment to school to record, just people in general. Like, he gave us room to work with. And I remember he's like, yo, like, what type of equipment do you think you would need? And like, I was just kind of like, I feel like we would need this and this. And it was like a one-time small conversation. And then I think this was the end of my freshman year. And during the summer, he invited me and Redante or Wave to come in and help him out with some stuff. So we ended up going, and we show up, and he had a room full of like studio equipment, which was pretty cool. So like, we didn't know what to do with it. Like, it was very like, oh, we have a Mac, some speakers, and good. And he just kind of was like, create, right?
Yeah.
I ended up asking him though, like, why did you do it? And he was like, well, look, man, I wanted to record music for myself, and I didn't want to buy any more instruments, and they didn't want to give me my classroom. So I figured I give you this stuff for you to play with it, and then I'll figure it out to record my own music. But, you know, it just ended up working out where, like, with those resources over time, he saw that like we were putting time into it. And there's still a video on YouTube where me and Wave documented us building the studio, which is pretty funny. It's still up there. I see it every once in a while, just to humble myself here and there. I'm just like, yo, let me see this video. And that's us being super goofy. We built a makeshift studio, and it just ended up working out. But definitely, I mean, I think we all have people who push us, but it's whether or not we're willing to listen. Because I mean, and I ask this to everybody, like, you know, if you really think back when you were younger, especially in those early ages, like, there was at least one person who was motivating you to do something. Right. But a lot of times we just don't listen.
Yeah.
So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just youth ignorance?
I mean, I think life is weird, you know. I think life is interesting in ways where we don't understand it. That sometimes that adult or that person who's trying to motivate you doesn't understand life themselves, that like, you know, they can't really sit down and force you. No one can force you to do anything. That's the reality of it. So you have to find it within yourself to really do something. And if you don't do it, then it was up to you at that point. But I think that's just how life works, you know?
Yeah. Something I admire that you post a lot, you always kind of preach about is work. So you always say, work hard. You know, you run into this wall, that wall, the next wall, there's always a way around it. Yeah. You talk about that a lot, which, you know, I think is true with anything in life. Yeah. And back to being a dot connector. So at one point you managed, you know, some people would say one of the biggest artists out of Milwaukee. Yeah. You know, how do you manage to get there, you know, to the level that you guys got? How does a kid from Milwaukee basically, you know, go through all those and learn how to, you know, you were in meetings with Spotify, Apple, with different record labels. How do you manage that? How do you learn to control all that in a sense?
I mean, I don't think anyone is going out there trying to learn how to do it. Because I feel like if you're waiting for someone to teach you to do something, you're going to wait forever. Right. Yeah. I think you just have to do it. There was never a time in like my 5-year career of like the music industry that someone, as soon as I walk into the room, was like, are you supposed to be here? You know, they only ask you if you're supposed to be there if you're acting like you're not supposed to be there. Gotcha. And like I tell this all the time, like, you know, when you're in a show, like when you're putting on a show, or like, let's say we're in somewhere for a show, you can tell very quickly who isn't supposed to be backstage. So like, you know, I've done this here. Like sometimes when I'm like, yo, I want to go see like, and I'm sorry to the people at the rave, but like, I'm trying to think who was it that was in town for a show. And like we had a couple shows at the rave, so like I knew how to maneuver through. I was actually Party Next Door. Party Next Door was here for a show, okay. And I was like, yo, I want to go. And like my guy from the raid wasn't hitting me back. So I was just like, yo, I'm gonna just pull up. Like, I know where to go through, where to walk in through. So like, I'm not gonna tell y'all where it's at, but like, I just walked in and like, I just went where I had to go and I stood where I had to go. And as soon as security came up to me, I was like, oh, I'm here with the group. And it's like, at that point, it's like, do they want to go through the trouble of hitting up their manager?
Trying to figure out everything.
Yeah. They're like, a lot of these people that work, they don't even know. As long as you're there doing your thing, like no one's gonna do nothing. And we did this also, like me and my girlfriend went to Bonnaroo last year, and my guy was the head of VIP security. We didn't have passes, we didn't have anything, and he walked us through all of backstage, put us right in front, and no one asked no questions. As long as you act like you're supposed to be there, no one's gonna tell you anything. So I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. So like, you know, a big thing that I tell people is like, you will have what you deserve. Like, that's really what it is. Like, if you don't have something, it's because you don't deserve it. And like, when I walked into these meetings, like, I already knew I deserved it, you know, like, I'm not, and me and Ish had conversations about this, like, yo, how are we here? You know,
yeah,
like,
I bet, yeah.
Like, yo, we're in the middle of Europe, and it's just kind of like, and I learned a lot from him, because he would just be like, man, this is nothing. Like, we're supposed to be here. So like, you just learn through the process to just like, because I mean, yo, like our first meeting with like a label, I was so nervous. I was so scared. I was just like,
yeah, I'm sure.
I was just like, man, I had just turned 19 the first time we did like label meetings. And I was just like, no, I'm sorry, I was 18. I had just turned 18 when we first did our first meetings. And I was just like, you know, we're sitting in this table with this guy who's actually a good friend of mine now. And I remember we were at Roscoe's, and I looked at him and I was just like, I'm like, man, so you gonna give me a job? You know, I want to be an A&R, like just joking. He was like, well, I want to work with you, so let's sign this deal and let's get them signed. And I'm just like, I'm in the middle of eating like a piece of chicken, and I like spit it out. I'm like,
choke on it.
I almost choked. I'm like, whoa, you know, like, you're gonna ask this here,
Right?
And then that's what kind of like, that's the first moment in my career that I realized I'm supposed to be here.
Gotcha.
And you know, like, and those moments happen a lot. Like, there was many times where like I have to stop and be like, oh wow, like this is what I'm doing right now. Like, am I sure am I gonna do this? But you know, I just keep that in my head. Like, if I have this right now, it's because I deserve it, and if I don't have it, it's because I'm not working hard enough. So
Okay.
yeah.
What's the difference between a successful artist, someone that believes in themselves, like yourself and Ish, and one that just isn't you know, is trying but it's not there yet?
That's a good question. I don't think there's like a real answer to that. I think, and you deal with this a lot, especially when it comes to like art and careers that involve art, you know, you have to want it, you know, because, you know, the moment you stop wanting it, things will fall apart very quickly. And I think that's something very important that people don't understand. Like, you know, I'm managing this new guy now, Ethan, right? Ethan Payton. And, you know, I started working with him in December, and I had a meeting with him in December, and I was like, yo, are you sure you want this? He's like, he was so like ready. He was like,
pumped up, yeah.
He was like, yo, I want this. Like, I'm willing to do anything, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, all right. I'm like, you need to get in the best shape of your life in these next 3 months. And he's like, I got it. I'll do it. I've been in shape before. I could get in shape. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, you got to focus 30 hours a week in the studio. I mean, in music, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like 10 hours learning a new instrument or developing the new instrument, 10 hours writing, and 10 hours of theory, right? Because he wanted to be a producer artist. He didn't just want to be like a rapper or singer. He was like, I want to be a full-blown musician. I want to produce my own records. And, you know, sure enough, 3 months forward, and we were about to roll out his project. And I told him, I was like, you're not working hard enough, you know? And this isn't like to talk bad about him. This is more of like, you know, when you want something, it's easy to want, right? It's harder to do. So, you know, sure enough, like, I knew that was going to happen. Like, I knew he was just pumped because he was happy and, you know, but I wanted to let him fail for the first time doing what's considered one of the most impossible things to do, which is to make it in the music industry. Yeah. And he had to fail because I had to fail. You know, when I started and I realized that I didn't want to make music anymore, you know, I wanted to be behind the scenes, it took for me to get there. And then I failed again and I failed again. And then I finally found what I was meant to do. And that's the same thing with him. You know, he had to fail in a sense, but he didn't fail. He just had to be disappointed in himself to realize I have to work harder. And sure enough, like that from that conversation, it was a full 360 in his personality and the way he wanted to work. And I think that's what differentiates people who make it and people who don't. Like, good can pass, you know, mediocre can pass as good, but great is never mediocre. You know, like there's a ton of stuff, like I'm sure you guys have friends who've done music and you listen to their music and it's like, oh, it's good. Yeah. You know, but is it gonna go platinum? Is it a hit? Like, is it that, you know? So, you know, we have a ton of good, you know, we don't have a ton of great. And even when you have great, they have to want it. And if they don't want it, then it's nothing. So like, and that's the gamble you deal with this music industry, because you don't understand. No one understands what it is until they're there. And then when they're there, they realize the work that comes behind it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people choke. And that's why a lot of people are here now and they won't be here 6 months from now. And there's people who are here now and disappear for 3 years and come back stronger and better. And, you know, my best advice for any artist who feels like they're not good enough, I'm like, go listen to Drake's first project, right? People forget, like, and if you don't know what Drake's first project is, Room for Improvement, go listen to this. It's probably the most cringe project you ever heard of. Like, you listen to this project and it's Drake talking in between each record, like introducing his record, and it's so bad. And like the raps are so corny. And this is the biggest artist of our generation, like arguably, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think people are so used to like the final product and they feel like they have to be Drake. When it's like, no, like try it, fail, try it again, fail again. And then if you keep trying and in your head you put it, I deserve this, then you will have it, you know?
Going through, you know, the music industry and that journey, you know, you mentioned, you know, some of the opportunities that came to you, and I'm sure there was many more. Yeah. What made you stay on your lane, continue your own path and doing your own thing and not, in a sense, you know, going to those different doors that open?
I mean, I don't know, man. I think time passes very quickly, you know? Like, I'm 23 now, but I feel like I'm 30. Like, I feel like I'm 32 right now. Yeah. Like, it's just, when you move, so I think people age by how much they do. I think, because we age mentally. I think how we age physically is different than how we age mentally. Mm-hmm. You know, if you can be 40 years old in Milwaukee and go to New York and find people who are 16, 17 who are much more mature than you because they do more and they see more. And, you know, I think throughout this process, I always felt like I had more time, right? I'm like, yo, I have more time. And, you know, sure enough, 5 years passed and I feel like we didn't do as much as we could have did, but we did enough to the point where it's like, okay, we did some cool stuff. But like, I don't know. I think with opportunities, man, like I never looked for opportunities. I created my own opportunities because I feel like that's the best way to do it. Because if you go out looking for opportunities, or if your goal is to, I want to network, and like, because I hear a lot of people network in every industry, you know, people who are in college, oh, I go to network events, I'm a part of this organization and this and this and this. I'm like, what's your product? Yeah, like, what are you networking? Mm-hmm. You know, do you want people to know your name, or do you want them to know your product or whatever you want to be about? And I think people waste a ton of time trying to like create opportunities without actually making the opportunity. I'm sorry, people waste time trying like to walk into, trying to walk into, I think the best way is to like create your own. And, you know, we forget the power that we have, like, you know, technology, and like, you know, like me and my girl talk about this all the time. And, you know, she's like, you're always on your phone. And it's just like, I've never seen my phone as like a means of like entertainment. You know, sometimes now, like Fortnite, man, they put that on your phone. Yo, that stuff is addictive, like for real. But like outside of like Fortnite and chess on my phone. Like I only ever are on my phone, you know, either I'm reading an article about something random or like, you know, the only people I follow on my social media are people I look up to. You know, that's really all it is, or people that inspire me in a sense, or like close friends and family. So I've never seen it as a means of entertainment. And I think that's the problem with our era. We don't see things as resources. We only see things, we only see things as like entertainment. Like I'm bored. I put it down, you know, like, people don't read books anymore, you know, and I you know, I could attest to that. Like, I don't read that many books, you know, like I wish I would have read more books. Like I got through high school through Spark Notes, man.
Like Cliff Notes, Spark Notes.
Bro, it was awful. It was so awful. I would literally go to, like, I remember reading The Mockingbird. I think that's the book, right? That, yeah. I remember I was so lazy that I did not want to read that book that I went online and I searched the Mockingbird quizzes with answers, and I found like 10 different quizzes. I read through 10 different quizzes and memorized all the answers just so I would be prepared to take the quiz. And sure enough, I passed because they were just copying these same type of questions.
Yeah. Sure.
But I could have just read the book.
Yeah.
With the amount of effort that I did to do that. So, you know, when it comes to like creating opportunity, I mean, or just walking into opportunities or, you know, stuff falling into your lap, I think you have to create them. I think, you know, be passionate about something and learn to be good at something, or just find it in yourself to do something you want to do, you know, never fake like people or fake liking doing something. Yeah. Because you're only going to hit a wall.
Through, you know, all your experiences, you know, you toured all over Europe. I mean, you got to go to some crazy events, you South by Southwest, you worked with some dope people. Throughout, even producers that kind of reached out to you guys and worked with you guys. Yeah. You know, could you pick out a most memorable experience or something that, you know, you go back, like right now, first thing that comes to mind, you're like, shit, like.
Yo, man, first thing is Kanye, for sure.
Kanye, okay. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So like, yo, man, like I still have dreams about this sometimes, man. Like it was, so we were in LA. This is summer of 2016. No, I'm sorry, spring of 2016. We were out there for, I can't even tell you what we were out there for, but it was just me and Ish. I think we were doing, I can't recall exactly what we were doing in LA, but we were in LA and, we ended up getting invited to Travis Scott's release party, where he released the Pick Up the Phone video. Yeah, we show up and like we were on the list, so we were waiting, and like we walk into first like we're waiting in line. It was my first like real experience of like Hollywood and how it really works. Like Kanye pulls up in a Lambo and just like hops out the car, lets the doors open in the middle of the street, and paparazzi, like we were in the front of the line, right? Yeah. There was no paparazzi around, right? His car pulls up and a storm of like 40, 50 paparazzis are just like coming out the bushes, and like it was cars, like people getting out the car, paparazzi. I'm just like, yo, where did these, like, in a matter of seconds. And he just left his Lamborghini running in the middle of the street and just strolls in, and then some random person gets in his car and parks it. And I was just like, what is going on, yo? This is a full operation. Right. But yeah, we were in the party, and like the most memorable part about the party, it was James Harden and what's her name? Salaj Lathan. What's her name? It's an actress from Love and Hip Hop. No, I'm sorry, not Love and Hip Hop. Love and Basketball.
I can't. It's like, I know who you're talking about. But
I feel bad because like I never say her name right, so like people never know whatever. But it was some actress. I got you. Right? Yeah. And it was Ish next to me, and we're watching. Like Travis Scott starts performing, and Kanye just comes like right next to us. And he's just right there, and I'm just sitting here like, yo, I tap Ish, I'm like, Kanye. And then like we're so starstruck that we like naturally start following him around for like a little bit. And you know, he had a ton of people with him, and I mean everyone was at this party, yo. Everyone who was like popping at the time. I mean, it was just like a pure like A-list celebrity event.
That's crazy.
But yeah, that's probably the most memorable event where like I've been in a room full of like, you know, Kanye.
Yeah,
like,
I mean that's all you need right there.
Yeah. And all you do is like it's messed up, man, because it's like, and I felt like an amateur, but at the same time it was like, you know, I was a kid still, but it was like you just start staring because it's like, and you know it's crazy. Like I forgot that James Harden is next to me. And like at this one I'm just like, yo, that's Kanye. Like I almost looked at James like, yo, that's Kanye. You know, it was like it was nuts because it was just so many people there. And like I know there was more other people there that like at the time I like realized, but it was just kind of like the first time you see someone that you like consider like a god in the sense where it's like, and he just walks in front of you, and yeah, no, that's definitely number one on my list for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you learn very quickly that like it grounds you almost like, oh, they're just human.
Yeah.
You know, like it takes for you to be around these people to just like realize very quickly like, oh, they're just people, you know? And you know, I think it gives you like a boost of confidence where it's just like, I'm here for a reason. Like that means I was in that same room for a reason. That means I'm destined for something. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Let's get away from the music for a little bit.
For sure.
Because like I said, like you said, that's just, you know, I think one aspect of your life. You're so, you know, diverse in other things you do.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about those things. I mean, like I said, you're an entrepreneur, you have Evermore, you have your studio, you mentioned going into a new business. I mean, just how did you get into those? How did all those start up?
I mean, my music studio, I mean, I was naturally an audio engineer when I first started working, like self-taught. And then I just started having a ton of inquiries, like people who wanted to know who's doing It's Your Stuff. And then it became a business over the last like 2.5 years was when I was like, okay, let me run this as a business. And then, I mean, Evermore, like I've always been very entrepreneurial, like, you know, in high school, I was the kid selling chips and candy at school, you know, like I dabbled in that. But yeah, so like Evermore, that was just me and Oliver, decided one day to just like, yo, let's make our own shirt, right? Like, let's create our own blank shirt. During the time I was planning Ish's tour, we couldn't find a good shirt to use because it was just a bunch of crap out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I want to sell this like it's a retail. I want to sell t-shirts for like $30-$40. And they were like, we can't because it's like $2 t-shirts. They're cheap. Yeah. So we designed a good shirt, and then it became like a hobby turned into a concept, into a business plan. And then we got funding. And then we just kind of made it happen. It's been a process though. We launched 2 months ago. I mean, it's not easy, you know. It's like, it's one of those things where like starting a business, especially these days, where it's like you're jumping into a market that's not saturated, which you would naturally think it's easier to do, but it's actually harder to do because it's harder to sell something new to people who have been buying the same stuff forever.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I did that. And then I recently, you know, got an opportunity to get into the CBD business, which I'm going to be launching over the course of the next month. And that's just like the connections that I've made over time, and dots just connecting. And it became legal recently in all 50 states. So I'm about to be jumping in on that soon. But yeah, I mean, I think business, you know, music is a business. And the way I view it, if I was able to create a career out of what's considered impossible to do, then naturally, if I try doing stuff that are a little more possible with the same type of work ethic with people who are more consistent, it'll naturally be easier to do. Because like, I mean, when you're dealing with music, it's like you're dealing with artists, you know, and, you know, artists are artists. And you can't ever force art to be made. And, you know, I'm a businessman. So, like, me trying to create a business out of something that you can't control, I think can become a little overwhelming. And I've stressed a lot about that. So, now I kind of just let music be, like, something I naturally like doing. Because I build a ton of resources. But I definitely don't think it's, like, all I want to do. I think it's going to be something that I did that was cool. Now I want to build businesses and I want to build, you know, empires of some sort. with my background being, you know, the connection in the music industry. Yeah. But
you're taking the Gary Vee approach of building the family business. Then, you know, obviously he ate dirt for a while, and then he made a little, like, you know, he had kind of like yourself, right? It was super self-aware in that sense where he's like, I see this as the next thing.
yeah.
And like, he just figured like, I'll just chip in.
Yeah.
And that chip just kind of blew up.
Yeah. I'm just planting seeds right now. I think that's the way I view it. I think I have a ton of seeds out there, and I'm watering them all every day, you know, and keeping an eye on them.
I like that.
And,
that's dope.
you know, as one starts growing a little more, then I put a lot of attention into it, make sure it comes out perfect. But I build teams. I think that's something that I like doing as well, as like creating a team of people. And like I see the beauty in, and I told you guys this when we met before, I was like, I see the beauty in failing and understanding what doesn't work. And I think you have to appreciate that. You know, I think when people, like, especially like businesses, when they're starting businesses, they only talk about like, if it goes good, this is what we're going to do. You know, all the good stuff. Like, first we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm just like, well, what if the first thing doesn't happen? You know, then what? And, you know, and that's something that happened with Evermore. You know, what we thought was going to work, our first step that we thought was going to work was we had this idea. We create a good t-shirt for a good price, and then we give it to all the screen printers in Milwaukee. They'll naturally use our product, right? And that was like our plan A, and that didn't work. You know, like they were just like, oh, this is cool, but our clients want this. Yeah. Even though it's the same price, even though it's a better product, they're so used to using the same product that they're scared to make the next choice. So then it became, all right, let's make our product aware. You know, like, let's let people know that our product exists. So our second step that was, you know, that was created in case that didn't work was then we would go one-on-one to every single business in Milwaukee and every sector and reach out to them directly and let them know our product exists. And that's what we did. We created a list of over 500 businesses and pretty much that would need t-shirts. And we went sector to sector and emailed and called and made people aware. And then that started creating a little more sales. But then we realized that a lot of these businesses only need 20, 50 shirts, right? They don't need a ton. 50 is a lot for a lot of these businesses because they just need for staff and some to have on hand. So then it was like, all right, how do we move more shirts? And then, you know, now we're on the next process where we're reaching out to brands directly. So we're contacting brands from all over the country now and giving them samples. And then if that doesn't work, we have the next step and the next step. So we created like this step program where like, let's try everything and let's be okay if they all don't work. Let's just create the next step and the next step. We believe in our product and we understand that not everything's going to work. And I think people have this idea where, like, for example, you guys have this podcast, right? Like after the first podcast, I bet you guys were like, oh man, how are the numbers looking? Blah, blah, blah. And maybe your expectations weren't there. And you guys could have easily got up and be like, all right, man, I'm not wasting my time anymore. Like, calling my job back, you know, like, you know, it's one of those things where, but instead you figured out this doesn't work, you know, or this works. And I think that's all a part of the process. And I think people are just scared. People are scared of failing. They see failing as like, you know, if you fail at 23, like, is it really that bad? Or you fail at 26, is it really that bad? You know, if you fail at 30, it's like, okay, you fell at 40. Okay, maybe you need an intervention at that point. Like maybe you should just get that job. But, you know, until then, like, you know, life's short. You know, I bet you'll have more fun failing for 20 years than working a 9 to 5 for
being
20 years.
Comfortable with
you'll figure it out. I think that's what it is. And if you don't figure it out, then you just weren't working hard enough.
Go back to that work. What you mentioned kind of some of your endeavors, but is there anything else you would like to touch on? You know, what's in the future for MAG? What's coming up? What's even long term? We talked about building an empire. Like I said, we touched on it a little bit, but is there anything else you want to add?
I mean, I think right now, like at least like 2018 on my books, it's more of kind of like spreading my resources. That's really what I've been doing. just like musically, at least, I think musically I figured out how to open doors out of Milwaukee. I don't consider myself a pro of any kind as far as like how to make it in the music industry, but I know how to open the door into the industry. Okay. And I think, whether or not you can get through that door is really up to that person, but I could at least show you how to open the door. Yeah. And I think that's really what I've been doing. So like, just little stuff. Like I started this new thing where like I started giving out all my resources weekly, like slowly as a process. So I started off giving away free distribution to artists, right? So a good friend of mine launched this distribution company called Level Music, and it's 100% free. Artists keep all their royalties, and I gave it out to like over 200 local artists. I was like, yo, give me your email, send me a link to your music, just so I knew they at least took themselves serious enough to email me or give me their email, to have an email. And I sent them the distribution, and I could tell you I sent it out to over 200 people, and only 20 people signed up. And that just lets me know that only 20 people out of those 200 people were at least willing to create an account.
Yeah, take that next step.
That's the first step, create the account. And then, then after that, I people wanted, like, that's the main question. How do I get my stuff on Apple Music, Spotify? I'm sure you guys had the same question when you guys did your podcast. Like, How do you do it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're smart enough to know you have a phone with Google, you can easily Google, and it's like, it's right there. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make it easy for y'all. I'm gonna just give it to y'all, right? Yeah. And then the next question was like, how do I get on playlists and how do I get on blogs? And I gave them a resource for, how to get on blogs, and and I want to continue doing that throughout the year. As far as like, I'm not looking to help. I'm not. My goal in this isn't to create, another like 5 issues in Milwaukee. I'm doing it for like that one kid. Like, I'll be happy if one kid this year at least takes the next step with his career, and then he motivates another kid to take a step for his career. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then maybe 10 years from now, we have someone else who, because of one person and one person and one person, because that's the way I view it. Like, it went from my sister's ex-boyfriend to her friends in high school to me meeting Wave, and then meeting Ish and Buddha, and then us creating a group, and then creating another group and another group, and then another group after high school. And then we finally did it. So like, that's the way I view it. That's what I'm trying to do. And I just want to create resources. And I mean, that's really like this year. My real plan is to leave Milwaukee. Like, I made a goal to myself that I don't want to spend another New Year's here. Okay. And I don't say that because I don't like Milwaukee, or I don't want to, like, Milwaukee's home, but it's like I've became too comfortable here. I feel like I can do anything I want to here, in the sense where, like, and I mean this in like, not like in a bragging way, but like, if I need access to the Bucks, I can get access to the Bucks. If I need access to, the Brewers, I can have access to the Brewers. Like, if I need access to a warehouse or anything, like, I can have access to anything I want to here. So that lets me know that I'm preparing myself for failure here, because I'm going to get very comfortable. I think my girl tells me this all the time. She's like, you're so privileged. And I'm just like, yeah, I guess I do keep that in mind. Like, I have created privilege for myself here, and I want to go now. I see life as levels, I think I've mastered the level easy. And I think I gotta go into level hard. I'm gonna skip medium, like
intermediate.
I'm going straight through it. And I think I want to either move to New York or LA, or possibly both. Like, my goal is to have a place in LA and in New York and here where I could just bounce around. But I think that's really my next move, is to leave the city and learn more. I feel like I learned everything I could here, made enough connections that I did here, because like, the people that I look up to and the people that I feel like I connect with the most, I only talk to them when I'm in LA or New York. Mm-hmm. And I keep finding myself having the same conversations where it's like, yo, you need to be over here, right? Because like, what I can do in New York in a week will take me a year to do here. Like, and that's just the reality of it. You meet so many people, you do so much, and like, rent might be, $2,000 more a month out there, but I can make that and then some, and being in those scenarios, and then just challenging myself to, meet new people and make new friends again. And, so I think my ultimate goal is, my 5-year plan is build Evermore up to what I can build it to be. I see Evermore as like a 20-year business for me. Like, I want to build that until as long as I can. And then just continue with the endeavors that I'm doing, whether it's music or it's following businesses, or maybe I'll work at a label. I don't know. Like, I think I'm just going wherever
life takes you.
Wherever life takes you. I'm just spreading, positivity and hard work, and yeah, that's really it. I mean, as far as like where I want to be. Yeah. But I used to chase money, as far as like that was my goal. Like, I told myself I want to make $1 million by 21, and like life humbled me very quickly, where it's like, you shouldn't chase money. You should chase the destination and where you want to be as a human, because like you learn very quickly that money isn't happiness as much as we hear it. It gives you comfort, but comfort isn't happiness either.
Right.
So like, I think I want to chase being a better person. I think I want to be a better individual. I want to help people more. And I think it's all about like self-development. I think that's what life is about. You look at the most successful people on this planet, and they're all very confident, and they're very either good or bad. They could either be, we got Trump, who is like, this man he believes his own lies. And you got to understand, there's an art in that. To believe your own lies on national TV and in front of a power country, that's an art in its own, and like, it's scary. That's honestly scary. So, I understand that you're gonna run into people that are powerful, that are gonna have hate in their heart. So, spreading positivity and just trying to prosper as a human. I think that's my ultimate goal.
We just got a couple of questions to wrap up that we like to ask our guests. First question is going to be away from artists, but just anyone in general, out of high school, out of college. Someone comes up to you, they have no clue what they want to do. What's the next step? What advice would you give that person?
Focus on yourself and you'll figure it out. I think that's really it. I think it's more of, self-development is very crucial. And I wish someone would have told me that earlier. I think a lot of times we want to find something because we don't know who we are. So we feel like if I find something or someone tells me to go do something, I'm going to figure it out. But all you really have to do is figure out who you are as a person. Like, the hardest thing to do is looking in the mirror and understanding that that's who you're going to be for the rest of your life. Yeah. A lot of times we look in the mirror because we're looking whether, did I shave right? Right. Did I do my makeup right? Is
it fit good? Whatever.
Is it fit good? Like, we only look at the things that we think we can control, but we forget about who we are as a person. And like, under all that makeup, under those clothes, you are that person. Mm-hmm. And you should be comfortable in that person and your personality and who you want to be, and who you are, where once you create that, that stability where like, this is who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am. And if you're not comfortable with who you are, write it down and say it out loud. Like, I hate this. Like, not hate, you shouldn't use hate, but like, I don't like this about me. What do I do to fix it? Yeah. And I think once you get past that, you will have a clear vision of what it is that you want. Okay. So I think that's really, and I preach that all day to people, find yourself.
You gonna ask the next one?
Yeah, sure. What's the best advice you've gotten?
The best advice I've gotten, and I think I touched on this, it's you don't have what you don't deserve, or you only have what you deserve. I think that's really the best advice that I've gotten, and I got it recently actually. You know, I think there's a big talk about like karma and this, and you know, and I think I don't believe in karma just because I'm Catholic, and you know, that's not a Catholic thought to have, but it is you know, and not that I'm like super religious, but it's just like the way I was raised. I believe that like, you know, you know, your faith has to be greater than your doubt, and you know, if you believe in something, you're meant to have it. So just think about having it, you know, like a lot of times, like I have anxiety, right? So like I deal with anxiety a lot, and something that I read this online at one point was like, as soon as you have anxiety, like when you have I don't know if you guys deal with anxiety, but when you have anxiety, you have negative thoughts about like, damn, what if this happens?
Yeah.
Damn, you're fucking up. Like, you know, you like constantly remind yourself, I got to do this and I got to do that. And you know, this article talks about how when you have those thoughts, you say it out loud, the opposite of that. So like, man, I didn't sell the amount of shirts I wanted to sell for Evermore this month. Like, this business is going to fail. Like, if that's happening in my head, I'm just be like, what do I have to do? Like, I'll say it out loud. Like, what do I have to do to sell these many shirts this week? Right. I'm going to sell these shirts this week. I know we can. I'll call like Ali. I'm like, yo, Ali, we didn't sell these amount of shirts. What do we have to do to sell these shirts? And what do we have to do this? So I think, you know, it has to do a lot with, you know, wanting it, you know, ask and you shall receive, but you have to act on it, you know. So yeah, that's probably the best advice I received was you only have what you deserve, for sure.
If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, no matter what, who would it be and where would you take them?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think this is gonna be weird because it's like spiritual stuff, but I think I would want to have dinner with Judas. Is that his name? Yeah, I think I would want to have dinner with him, and I'll probably take him to TB Buena Vista. You know, I'll take him there just to have some tacos. Yeah, I think the only reason I say him is because, you know, as people that don't know who Judas is, he's the one that betrayed Jesus. I think, you know, I feel like I don't know exactly if all that really happened. Like, I believe in Jesus, but like I feel like a lot of these stories were more of like parables, right? You know, where they had a meaning behind them. And when they talk about like when Jesus would say, you know, someone's gonna betray me, right? He already knew someone was gonna betray him, right? So that means Judas knew he was gonna be the one that was gonna betray him. You know, why did he do it? I think I would want to know why. And, you know, maybe he was in on it, you know? Maybe that's what he had to do, you know? Because he had to die for our sins. Like, that's what the religious. But I think that's someone I would want to meet with, just to like, to really figure out. Because I feel like to know good, you need to understand bad. And, you know, I would want to understand why he was bad. But I'm also like a fan of like serial. Well, I'm sorry, not a fan. Whoa. No, I'm a fan of like serial killer documentaries where they document like where they try to figure out what caused them to be what they were. Mental and all that. Just because like I think you will understand more about what it means to be good when you understand what's bad. Because like you look into a lot of these people, man, and they went through abuse and they went through all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's true.
And no one was accountable for that, you know. And I think, you know, we need to study more about bad to really understand good, or else good is we're never all going to be good until we understand what it is. Yeah. So we know how to prevent it, you know, because I think, you know, I see it hits home with communities and stuff, you know, like why aren't, you know, community, you know, leaders focusing more time on the misguided youth? You know, we complain a lot about, you know, kids are wasting their time and they're doing this and, you know, gangs and drugs, but no one's really having the conversation about why are these kids doing that. And I think we need to spend more time with the bad to figure out how to make things good. So
Dope.
Yeah.
I hope that was an answer.
No,
y'all.
that was a
That was
good
that
answer.
was a really good answer, actually.
Wasn't expecting that, so that's good.
Yeah.
In your experience, what's the reason why people either give up early, prematurely, or just quit?
I think it has to do a lot with, insecurities, and I think support systems. I think support systems are very important. And I think, I don't know what's the opposite of a support system, but I think whatever that word is, I think people surround themselves by people who are not supportive, because, you know, if you complain and you surround yourself around people who complain, you're going to be a group of complainers, and you're going to get comfortable just complaining about stuff. And we know people like that. We all know people who just sit around and like, I hate this, and yeah, I hate that too, and I hate it because of this, and
like
I
point
hate
those fingers.
you know. And it's like, why are you spending so much time and energy complaining about things you don't like, and not spending time doing things you do like? And I think we live in a society where like an album drops, and naturally before people start praising it, there's people complaining about it.
Yeah.
And, you know,
critiquing his work.
Yeah. And it's like, why are we spending so much time talking down on people trying? And I think that's why a lot of people quit or don't even try, is because we're in an age where people want to bring people down. Like, you look at stuff like TMZ, where like, you know,
so that's what they live off.
Like, and this is weird because I hate talking about like, you know, the current stuff that happens, but like, you know, Khloe Kardashian just had a baby or something, right?
Yeah.
Like days before she has her baby, they're putting videos up online about her baby daddy cheating on her. Yeah. Like, and you gotta understand, this happened last fall. They kept this. They kept this in the vault. You know, they were like, yo, we're going to wait right before she has this baby, and we're going to put it out everywhere. You know, and it's like, that's messed up. You know, that will make people, you know, even though that's something small, there's a ton of teenage girls out there who follow this, right? Yeah. And the urban community's following this. So like, that then creates this stigma where we have, you know, young women who think that men are supposed to be shit, you know? And then we have a bunch of young guys who are defending him and saying, well, he's an NBA player, he can do whatever he wants. Right. And then we have a ton of youth thinking that that's okay. And I think that's the problem with why people quit. I think everything, all the negativity, we haven't understood what the internet is yet. And I think it's easier to fail like in this modern era because failure is promoted as entertainment a lot. You know, people, I remember being in school and like, you know, our school would publicly release top of the class and lowest of the class as a number. And when that list came out, you know, kids used to get clowned for not being smart enough, right? And, you know, people got entertainment about that. So like, we need to eliminate that as a community. We need to stop embracing failure as entertainment and embrace failure as progress. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why a lot of people, you know, don't even try.
Gotcha. That's a great answer. Last question. I mean, you touched this in the beginning. You always kind of knew you were different in a sense. Yeah. You know, we are called a podcast called Ordinary Freaks, and we leave that open to interpretation to, you know, whatever each individual wants to take it. But on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, how weird, how different, how much of a freak do you think you are and why?
So 1 through 10?
Yeah.
I would say 5. Just because I don't think I'm any different than people. Okay. I think I'm just comfortable expressing myself, you know? Like, I'm comfortable enough to like be driving and like be like break out into like singing some like Backstreet Boys. Like, it's not even music I would listen to, but it'll be stuck in my head. Like on the way here, I was singing like very obnoxiously like Suavemente for like, and she was in the car like, why are you singing this? You know, but it's like, I'm just comfortable. Like, I'm comfortable with myself enough to understand that, like, you know, there's a ton of stuff that we all do, you know, behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And like, there's stuff that we do in our head, and like, we're so afraid to do it out in the open because we feel like, you know, we can't do it. We're not supposed to do it. I think we forget, like, I just remember being a kid and being able to just freely do whatever I wanted to do. And I think, like, just think about who you were at, you know, ages 5 through 10, right? When you first become conscious of who you are. Yeah. And like, you're willing to do everything, you know? Like, I was just the other day, I was like, yo, I used to be able to walk on my hands, you know? Like, you know, when you like, whatever, do a handstand or whatever. Yeah, handstand walk. And I was like, yo, I haven't tried doing this since I was a kid. And I broke into like me trying to do it and like almost busted my shit. But I was just like, why don't we do stuff like that anymore? Right. Like, why are we not allowed to be free and, you know, fully express ourselves and, you know, express our voice? And I mean, yeah, I think we're all freaks, man. I think we're all ordinary freaks. I think that's I like that name because it's like, we're all weird in our own way. We're all completely different. Like, there's no one out there that's like you. You know, everyone has their own different personality and soul. And it's more of, you know, people act a certain way because people try to act the same a lot because they're scared to be themselves.
Yeah, they want to fit in.
They want to, like the fit in. It's like you're fitting in with the wrong crowd. That's really all it is. Because you realize the day you start acting like yourself, you're gonna find people that you like. You know, because you'll find people who act like themselves, and the next thing you know, you become friends with people who other people thought were weird. And you know, like some of my best friends, like one of them loves to just watch anime, and like we'll have days where I just like join him and we watch anime for hours. And I'm not even into anime, but I'll do it just because he's into that. Yeah. And you know, and I have other friends who like, you know, they love eating fried foods, and once a week I go and get fried food with him and he loves it. And, you know, some white dude that just loves fried food, and I'm just like, all right. So like, you know, everyone's weird, man, in our own ways. I think we're too, like, when you create this spectrum between 1 through 10, everyone always wants to be like, oh, I'm not weird, I'm like 1 and 2. Yeah. Or they're trying too hard to be different, where they're like, I'm 10, I'm special, I'm different. Sure. You know, it's like we should all just meet at the middle and be 5s and be yourselves and like be your own freak. Yeah. Just be yourself.
Cool. For the people watching, for those who inspired, you know, for that one kid sitting watching this, that you might have sparked something, let the people know where they can find you, where they can, you know.
Don't find me, man. I'm not this entertaining. No, I mean, you can follow me on anything or send me payments to MAG is for Magic on every payment source, Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. No, I'm joking. No,
Bitcoin.
I accept Bitcoin. No, I'm joking. MAG is for Magic. It's MAG is for Magic at every social media platform or payment method. I accept donations.
Nope.
No, I'm joking.
All right. Thank you, MAG.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ordinary Freaks. Another great episode here. MAG, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.